Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Picture this. It's 1972.
Wow, okay.
We're in Singapore in a neighborhood called Toa Payoh Lorong 2. And you're looking at this old, sort of sepia-toned photo of a kindergarten class.
You can see it.
You've got these rows of adorable 5-year-olds all sitting there with that, that really serious posture kids have when they know a camera's on them.
Oh, yeah.
And they are all wearing these tiny miniature mortar boards.
Graduation caps.
Yeah.
On toddlers.
Exactly. It's an incredibly cute image, but if you look closer, it's also
Yeah.
It's remarkably heavy. It's just loaded with symbolism.
And really is. It captures a very
Everyone
specific cultural moment, doesn't it?
Oh.
Even at 5 years old, the programming has already started.
Right.
The message is, here's the golden ticket to a good life, to safety, to success. It's education. You get the cap, you get the gown, you get the scroll, and bam, your future is guaranteed.
It's the starting line of the rat race, just disguised as a celebration. But today, we aren't just reminiscing about 70s fashion. We are taking a deep dive into a fascinating series of reflections by a man named Ben Sim.
And he's actually one of the little kids in that photo.
He is, and he uses that image to bridge this massive gap, a 25-year gap between that symbolic success and what he calls true graduation.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because he's not talking about the gap between, say, kindergarten and a PhD.
No.
He's talking about the gap between the symbol of success, the degree, the high-paying job, and the reality of freedom.
Specifically, financial freedom. But, and I want to be really clear about our mission today, this is not your standard, hot stock tips deep dive.
Not at all.
We're going to unpack a whole philosophy of wealth that challenges a lot of the standard advice we get. We're going to talk about why discipline might actually be a liability.
Which is such a contrarian idea.
Why buying certain kinds of insurance is exactly like eating junk food, and why being rich has almost nothing to do with your bank balance.
The junk food analogy is, I think, particularly striking. It completely reframes how you look at these financial products.
Oh, we are definitely getting into the ultra-processed theory of investing.
Yeah.
If you've ever felt just confused looking at an insurance policy, you are going to love why he compares it to a frozen TV dinner.
I bet.
But before we get to the menu, we have to start with the foundation. Ben Sim says it took him 25 years to crystallize one single critical realization about financial freedom.
25 years. I mean, that is a long time to learn one lesson.
It is. So what was the epiphany?
It's deceptively simple, but, most people miss it entirely. He realized that financial freedom is not determined by how much money you earn.
Right. We're all conditioned to chase the bigger salary, the bonus, the promotion.
We think that absolute number is the key. But Sim argues that true freedom lies entirely in managing the gap.
The gap, you mean the margin between what comes in and what goes out?
Precisely. Income minus expenses. That little wedge of air. That's where freedom lives. I mean, think about it. You could earn $1 million a year, but if you spend $1,001 to maintain a lifestyle,
you're broke.
You are less free than the person earning $50,000 who only spends $40,000. That person with the lower income actually has more freedom capital because they have a positive gap.
Okay, mathematically that makes perfect sense, but let's be real, maintaining that gap is where the pain is, right? It's easy to say spend less, but life happens. Lifestyle creep happens.
Of course, you get a raise, you buy a nicer car.
Exactly.
And that is precisely where Sim identifies the 3 necessary pillars to maintain this gap. He says you need long-term persistence, you need strict discipline, and you need a level of patience that, frankly, exceeds what the ordinary person is willing to give.
Let's talk on discipline for a second, because I feel like in the personal finance world, that word gets weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
It's always stop buying lattes, punish yourself, live on rice and beans. It feels like a potent sentence.
And this is where Sim just flips the script. This is, in my opinion, the most profound insight in his writing. He argues that if your discipline feels like punishment, or if it requires some kind of external force, it's not actually an asset.
It's a liability.
It's a liability.
Okay, I want to push back on that a little bit. Let's play devil's advocate, because a lot of people, and I'd include myself sometimes, we feel like we need that force.
Sure.
We need that forced savings account because otherwise we'll just spend it. So why is that a liability? I mean, isn't forced savings better than no savings?
Better than nothing? Maybe. But is it optimal? No. It's a liability because of what it costs you.
Mhm.
Sim points out that the financial industry loves to sell you forced discipline.
Oh, yeah.
They sell you these locked-in insurance savings plans or endowment policies by pitching them as, this will force you to save.
Right. Can't touch the money for 10 years, so you'll be rich.
Exactly. But Sim is saying, look, if you need a legal contract to force you to save, what you're really admitting is a lack of self-knowledge. You are paying a premium in fees, in lower returns, in a lack of liquidity, just to have someone else handcuff you.
So you're essentially paying a weakness tax for your own lack of willpower.
That's a blunt way to put it, but yeah, basically. He calls it a liability because true wealth building comes from internal control. It's about emotional autonomy.
Yeah.
If you possess the internal discipline to save without a contract, you don't need to pay all those fees.
You keep the liquidity. You keep the control.
You keep the control.
That is a really powerful shift in perspective. It moves the whole conversation from, what product has the best return to who do I need to become so I don't need these handcuffs in the first place.
Exactly. It turns finance into a character issue. And this leads us perfectly into his central analogy, the ultra-processed food theory of investing.
I love this part. Okay, break this down for us.
So Sim compares investment-linked policies, they're commonly known as ILPs, to deeply processed food.
And for anyone listening who, might be lucky enough to not know the jargon, an ILP is basically a hybrid product, right? It's insurance mixed with investment.
Correct. You pay a premium, some of it goes to the insurance coverage, and the rest is invested in a fund. It's an all-in-one package. And Sim asks, what is a prepackaged microwave meal?
It's convenient. You just pop it in, you eat it, you don't have to think.
It's designed for people who don't want to cook or don't know how to cook. It keeps you alive. It, tastes okay. But what's really in it,
Right.
to make it shelf-stable and taste good, it's loaded with preservatives, excess salt, weird fillers, binders.
And in the financial world, those preservatives and fillers are what? The fees?
High management fees, administrative charges, mortality charges, massive commission structures for the agent who sold it to you. Sim argues that ILPs are structures. They are convenient if you want to be hands-off, but for someone who already has a structured diet.
Someone who understands their financial health.
Yes. For them, these products are just full of empty calories.
So you're paying for a lot of stuff you don't actually need, just for the convenience of having it all packaged together in a nice, shiny wrapper.
And worse, Sim describes it as a structure that locks you into long-term uncertainty. Unlike a microwave meal, which you eat and forget, these policies can lock you in for 10, 20 years.
Oh, man.
You're committing to eating that processed food for decades. And if you try to stop eating it, meaning you surrender the policy early, you face these massive penalties. You lose a ton of money.
That's the handcuffs coming back into play. You're locked in the cafeteria.
bar.
Okay, so if ILPs are the frozen TV dinner, what is the home-cooked meal? What are the raw ingredients he recommends we buy instead?
He points to ETFs, exchange-traded funds, and unit trusts. He considers these the actual tools, the raw ingredient,
Why does he call them raw?
because they're the base components.
Yeah.
If you buy an S&P 500 ETF, you are buying a tiny slice of the top 500 companies in the U.S. That's the steak. If you buy a bond ETF, maybe that's the vegetables. You, the chef, you get to decide the portion. Do you want 80% steak and 20% veg? Or 50-50? You're in control.
And because you're buying the raw ingredients, you aren't paying the factory to assemble the meal for you.
Exactly right. You cut out all those middleman fees. It allows for calculation, comparison, and calibration. With an ETF, you know exactly what you're holding. It's a tool the investor controls rather than a cage the investor's locked into.
But let's play the other side again. Cooking requires skill. Buying raw ingredients requires you to know a good steak from a bad one. Isn't Sim assuming everyone wants to be a chef? I mean, what if I burn the kitchen dough?
That is the critical counterpoint, and Sim acknowledges this implicitly. His philosophy is for those seeking true graduation, mastery. If you're terrified of the kitchen, maybe the microwave meal is better than starving.
Right.
But his point is, don't confuse the microwave meal with fine dining. And for God's sake, don't pay fine dining prices for it.
That's a great distinction. It's all about awareness. You can eat the TV dinner, but just know that it's probably not great for you, and it's definitely overpriced.
He actually gives a really useful checklist for this.
Yeah.
Whenever he looks at a financial product, he asks himself, is this deeply processed?
How processed is this investment? I love that. It's such a great mental model.
And he follows up with, what is the credit rating? Is the risk within my scope of control? And most importantly, does this actually suit me? It's about stripping away all the marketing fluff, the picture of the happy retired couple on the brochure, and just looking at the nutritional value.
No, Ben Sim is writing from a Singaporean context, and he mentioned something very specific, the CPF, or Central Provident Fund.
Hmm.
For our international listeners, this is basically a mandatory government social security savings plan. You put money in, your employer puts money in, and it's locked up until you retire.
Right. And even if you aren't in Singapore, the principle he applies here is relevant to any government pension or 401k scheme. It fits into his raw ingredients versus processed framework in a pretty interesting way.
How so? Because the CPF feels pretty forced. I mean, it's the ultimate handcuff. The government holds the key.
It is forced.
Mm-hmm.
But Sim acknowledges that investing isn't static.
Mm-hmm.
You have to rebalance. If you are someone who truly doesn't know where to start, if you're afraid of the kitchen, to stick with the metaphor, he says putting retirement savings into the CPF, or specifically into the special accounts which earn higher interest, is a safe, steady choice. It's the safety net.
But he has a warning about the payout phase, right? Something about CPF Life, which is their annuity scheme.
Yes. This is a technical nuance, but it really matters. CPF Life is an annuity. That means you give the government a lump sum of your savings, and in return, they promise to pay you a monthly income for as long as you live.
Sounds great. Guaranteed income for life. What's the catch?
The catch is the trade-off between capital and income. Sim notes that once those payouts start, the interest mechanism changes. You are not earning compounding interest on your pot of gold anymore.
Ah.
You've essentially bought an insurance product that protects you against living too long.
So if you die early, that capital is, what, gone?
In a pure annuity, yes, it would stay in the pool to pay the people who live longer. Now, with CPF Life, there are bequests. But the core math is you are trading the growth potential of your capital for the security of a cash flow.
I see.
Sim isn't saying it's bad. He's just saying understand the trade. You lose the raw ingredient growth potential.
Again, it just comes back to knowing what you're buying. Are you buying growth or are you buying security?
Yeah.
And neither is wrong, but you have to know which one you're holding.
Exactly. And to have that kind of clarity, to know whether you should be greedy for growth or fearful for safety, Sim leans heavily on the philosophies of two absolute giants in the investing world.
And we were talking about the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, and his late great partner, Charlie Munger.
The dynamic duo. Sim quotes them to reinforce his own philosophy. And the first quote he pulls is one of my all-time favorites. Wealth is not a reward for IQ, but a return on rationality.
A return on rationality. I love that. Because we often, oh, that person's rich, they must be a genius at math, or they know how to read all those complex charts.
And Munger would say, absolutely not. You don't need to be a genius.
Yeah.
You just need to be rational when everyone else around you is being emotional.
Which leads to the other famous Buffett line.
Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful.
Which is the cliche we all know, but it is, I think, the hardest thing in the world to actually do. When the market is crashing, when the news says the world is ending, your lizard brain is just screaming, run, sell, get out.
And when your neighbor's making 200% returns on some new crypto coin, your brain screams, buy, don't miss out.
Right.
That is where the discipline we talked about earlier kicks in. But Sim identifies the one thing that destroys judgment faster than anything else.
What is it? Fear.
No, it's envy.
Envy. Huh. Interesting. Not fear, not even greed, but envy.
Charlie Munger called envy a luxury for the poor mind. And Sim adopts this view completely. He says envy destroys your judgment because you stop looking at your own gap, your own income and expenses, and you start looking at your neighbor's shiny new car or their incredible investment returns.
And the moment you do that, you stop sticking to your own plan. You abandon your whole raw ingredient strategy for a quick fix. You buy the processed food because it looks like everyone else is enjoying it.
Exactly. Sim says the only antidote to the poison of envy is that pairing of discipline and patience. It's about staying in your own lane. It's about understanding that someone else getting richer faster than you does not make you poorer.
It's funny because when you lay it out like this, his philosophy is actually very, well, boring. And I mean that as a huge compliment.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's patience. It's discipline. It's simple ingredients. It's not flashy at all. There's no get-rich-quick scheme here.
Real wealth building usually is boring. That's the secret nobody wants to hear. If your investing is exciting, if your heart is racing, you're probably gambling, not investing.
So let's look at the destination. If we follow this boring, disciplined path, if we avoid the processed products, if we ignore our envious neighbors and we master our own psychology, What is the prize? What's at the end of this road that started with the kindergarten mortarboard?
This is the beautiful part. Sim redefines rich. It isn't a number on a bank app. He breaks true wealth down into three key components.
Okay, lay them on me. What are they?
First, emotional autonomy. The ability to not be swayed by the market or by what your neighbor is doing, to be emotionally steady.
That's the return on rationality we were talking about.
Right. Second is focus. The ability to concentrate on what actually matters to you, not what matters to the bank. And third, and most importantly, control over time.
Control over time.
That is the highest freedom. Sim goes right back to that childhood image. He says the ultimate graduation, the real graduation in life, is when you are no longer consumed by envy or anxiety. You win your time back.
So the goal isn't just to sit on a pile of gold like a dragon. The goal is to wake up in the morning and be able to say, I own this day.
Yes. He says when you win this freedom, you can dedicate 100% of your energy to managing your own life and doing what you are truly good at and passionate about. You become the master of your own time.
That is what the mortarboard should have represented all along.
It's a full circle moment. You start with a symbol of education and you end with the application of wisdom. And the wisdom is that money is just a tool to buy you that autonomy. It's not the end goal itself.
Right.
If you have the money but you don't have the time or the emotional peace, you aren't wealthy. You're just a rich servant to your own assets.
It really makes you rethink the whole hustle culture mindset, doesn't it? We're so busy trying to earn more, we forget to manage the gap and build the discipline.
And we often outsource that discipline to products that don't really serve us. We pay fees to insurance companies because we don't trust ourselves to save our own money.
So let's bring this all together. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We started with a photo from 1972 and the illusion of success. We learned that financial freedom lives in the gap between income and expense, not just in a high salary.
We learned that forced discipline, like those locked-in insurance policies, is actually a liability because it masks a lack of self-control.
We unpacked the ultra-processed food analogy, seeing how ILPs are convenient but full of junk fees we don't need, while ETFs are the healthy raw ingredients for the disciplined financial chef.
And we looked at the dangers of envy and the necessity of rationality, drawing on the wisdom of Munger and Buffett.
And finally, we landed on the definition of true wealth: emotional autonomy and, most of all, control over your own time.
It's a pretty comprehensive philosophy. It's not just investment advice, it's life advice.
Absolutely. It treats money as a part of your character, not just a part of your wallet.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge, a bit of homework, if you will, to take this from theory to practice.
We want you to look at your own financial life. Open up your statements, look at your subscriptions, your insurance policies, your savings plans.
And ask yourself this one question. Where am I paying a premium just to have someone else force me to do what I already know I should be doing myself?
Are you paying for a financial gym membership you never use or a diet plan that's just processed junk? Is that convenience actually costing you your freedom?
If you stripped away all the contracts and the penalties, would you still have the discipline to save? If the answer is no, then that is your real work. Not picking the next hot stock, but building that internal asset of self-discipline.
That's the real graduation day.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Hopefully this helps you cook up a better financial future.
See you next time.